From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, real therapists. If you have any questions you'd like to ask or advice you'd like to give, come on over to podtherapy.net and join our conversation. It's episode 18, and we want to give a big thank you to our faithful listeners, a welcome to our new listeners, and a heartfelt Privyet comrade to our Russian bots following us on Facebook. And now, broadcasting from Jim's office, that guy is Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangeman. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
I am honestly impressed that you not only looked up something in Russian, but then you pronounced it with an accent.
No. I didn't look that up.
What? Are you a spy? What's the deal here?
Yes.
What are you trying to say? I always thought you kind of looked Russian. Yeah.
No. So when I was in high school, my dad and I took a class in conversational Russian at a local community college.
That is not a normal thing. I just want to point it out.
So I can say hello, I can say thank you.
Why would Iowans...
And I can count to 10.
Why would you from Iowa want anything to do with Russia? Isn't that like a place where it's like red meat, red state, we hate the Russians?
No, there's literally nothing else to do.
There's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So what did you say in that intro? What was that?
That was hello, friend.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You said hello, friend.
Yeah, well...
To the Russian bots.
Privyet. Hello.
Privyet. Well, thank you, Nick. I feel like we've all learned something today. We've learned that you're a Russian spy.
No, we've learned nothing.
Niet means... Wait, I thought that was hello.
No, that's no.
No is niet.
Niet.
Hello is Privyet.
Yes.
And then you said comrades.
Yeah.
Wow. Really impressive, man. That was really good.
Thank
so
you.
welcome to the Russians. Welcome to our new listeners and our faithful listeners. We are not recording from Level 9 Studios. Not today.
We are not.
No. Scott threw us the hell out. Yeah.
Which, honestly,
it was the
right thing to do.
I would have done it too.
I'm not even mad.
I would have thrown me out.
So Scott had the opportunity to do some actual professional work.
Yeah, with real people.
With real people.
Yeah.
So, in the nicest way possible, he said, hey guys.
I'm busy. Yeah. Not this week. Thanks a lot, Scott. But no, we have makeshifted a new studio in my office on Sahara, which we are now calling Level 10 Studio. Yeah. Suck it, Scott. Level 10 Studio. Yeah. Also known as Jim's office.
We haven't had a good test yet of this equipment, and we're not really sure what background noise is going to be picked up. So if you hear a phone going off, that is from the
Discount Tire.
Discount Tire, right across the street.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Discount Tire on Sahara and Torrey Pines without their knowledge. Oh, man. All right, Nick. So we get to start the podcast this week with some very interesting research, hot off the press, some new data coming out of psychology circles. So the American Politics Research Journal has an article titled Voter Personality Predicts Trump Support. So basically, we've all heard of like personality tests.
Right.
You know, we've all taken those on Facebook and all that stuff. And the sad truth that I guess I don't want to break everybody's hearts, but the truth is they're almost all bogus. Like, there's almost no exception to this. They're all bad. None of them actually correlate with data. So whichever Harry Potter house you were sorted into, that's probably not true. Like, I don't know. I mean, you know what? If it matters a lot to you to be in Gryffindor, just keep on believing, baby. But it's not rooted in science.
Yeah, so there's the MMPI.
Yeah, the Minnesota Multiphasic
Personality Inventory?
Personality Inventory, that's it, yeah. And that's a real thing. That's an actual battery that we'll give people. That's like a 60-question battery.
Myers-Briggs is the one I was thinking of.
So, okay. Myers-Briggs is this famous one that you can take online, and people know all about it. And it's from two psychologists, Stephen Myers and, goodness gracious, I forgot who Briggs is. And just Briggs. Yeah. That's her only name. And what drove us all crazy about this is that Myers-Briggs is this very well-known personality test, and it usually rates you into a couple of different categories. And this is where you've seen like 4 letters that define you, so it'll be like SNRI or whatever, or JNRI or whatever. And so there's like introvert or extrovert, and then there's other like additional qualities that you might have, like justice oriented or whatever. That thing has been so thoroughly debunked. Nobody in actual science ever has used the Myers-Briggs, refers to it in any way, or holds it in any esteem. It is junk science that they are making a killing on because people enjoy it. They take the stupid test.
Fun. It is fun to do.
And they're like, I'm an SNRI. What are you? Like, oh, that's so like you. It's as accurate as a horoscope. You read into it whatever you want. And so it's no good. It's no use. But this data, this data that says that they can predict a Trump voter based on personality, that is based on hard science. And there's actually a personality test called the Big Five. And it's 5 personality traits that they basically do a measurement exam on you, and then they rate you as high or low in all of these traits, right? So imagine it like you're looking at a little mixer board, right? Where there's like 5 different faders, and you can be high in that quality or low in that quality. So these 5 ingredients, people have different balances of those 5 ingredients, and that essentially is a personality test that we use called the Big Five. So what this study realized was that whenever they did an examination of people that were voting for Trump, and this was conducted during the Iowa primaries during the Republican
Caucus.
Oh, Iowa caucus. Oh, I apologize.
Caucus.
You guys are the first caucus in the nation.
Correct.
And then the primary is what, New Hampshire?
New Hampshire. Yes.
Oh, sorry about that. I apologize, Iowa. all of the Iowa people who were rolling in their Russian examination chairs. Whatever's going on out there. So yeah, the Big Five qualities were measured in early Iowa voters, and what they discovered was people who ended up voting for Trump had qualities in common. So here's what it says, and I'm quoting from the study. One contributing factor for the stability and vigor of Trump's early supporting coalition in the Republican primary was how well his messaging resonated with voters who have particular personality traits: low agreeableness, low openness, low neuroticism, high extroversion, and high conscientiousness among voters not only predict favorability toward Trump, but also preferring Trump to his competitors. It's fascinating. It's very interesting that you can actually do an actual study and predict how a person will vote based on their personality traits.
That is pretty interesting. So, for the average listener, how would you describe neuroticism?
So neuroticism, in the study of the Big Five, neuroticism has to do with attention to detail and like how problematic it is to you when something's incongruent.
Right.
So are you the kind of person who can wear socks with sandals? If the answer is yes, low neuroticism. If the answer is high, like no, that would absolutely bother me, high neuroticism.
So low neuroticism was associated with a higher likelihood of voting for Trump.
Right. So the 5 traits were low agreeableness. That kind of speaks for itself. Low openness.
So not open to new ideas.
Not open to new ideas. Low neuroticism. Okay,
right.
So not easily bothered by little things.
Okay.
And then high extroversion and high conscientiousness.
Oh.
And that's really interesting because in some ways I kind of see Trump in there. You know, like if you said, would you see Trump as an agreeable person? No, not particularly. Would you see Trump as an open-minded person? No, not particularly. Would you say that he's really easily bothered by things being incongruent? No, he's comfortable with conflict. Like he doesn't mind that. He doesn't even mind contradicting himself. He doesn't mind if things are out of order. People say that Trump thrives in chaos. Like that's his management style, is he pits everybody against each other and he enjoys disorder. Would you say that Trump is extroverted? Yes, highly. I think absolutely. And then high conscientiousness. You know, do you think that they have a strong opinion about things? Yeah, I think they do. So like that's an interesting little thing. But those 5 personality traits, you can actually predict a Trump voter based on a personality test.
Okay, so then what about, could you then extrapolate from that maybe you're just more likely to vote for somebody who represents the same 5 personality qualities that you do?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. So what I kind of hear you saying is, if Trump took this test, how would he score? And what I was just saying is I think he would score pretty much the same as his voters.
Exactly.
So perhaps we vote for people who are most like ourselves in personality type.
Right.
But we believe that we're voting for people that share
policy issues.
Yeah. You know, Nick, that's a good point. Like, I'm inclined to believe that. I'm inclined to agree with your proposal there because
my job here is done.
Yeah, you've nailed it.
All right, I'm out.
No, it's funny because we all want to believe that our political opinions are held in some like beautiful state of logic. Like, I just happen to feel this way about taxes, or I just happen to feel this way about war, and I like I like politicians who agree with that. And I think to an extent that's probably true, but I think you enthusiastically vote for a presidential candidate in large part based on their personality. If you thought Bernie was cantankerous and annoying, you didn't vote for him. But if you found him candid and honest and you liked that, then yeah, you probably did.
Right.
And you probably aligned with his policies. Same thing with Trump. That's really fascinating. So let me ask you this. In your personal life, let's step away from research. Let's use anecdotes.
Okay.
As a guy who lives in this nation and who interacts with all sorts of people, would you say that you've noticed that the people in your life who did support Donald Trump or continue to, that they actually share some of his personality traits?
Oh, man.
Now, before you get put on the spot, I will
Okay.
point this out. The research did go to lengths to say this was only true during the early primary season.
Right.
Because in the very, very beginning of the Republican primary, only 20% of all GOP voters liked Trump. And they're saying that 20% looked like this.
Right.
Over time, eventually John Kasich, who looks nothing like Donald Trump, supported Donald Trump.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's very good. That's an important distinction to make because, I mean, I know a lot of people, not a lot. I know some people who voted for Donald Trump simply because he was the Republican candidate.
Exactly. Right. And they don't share any qualities with him.
Right.
Do you know any diehard Trump supporters?
No, not anybody really close to me that I know really well. It's more like friends of friends. Well, except for my nephew, Kevin.
Okay.
But Kevin is 14,
Okay.
maybe,
Yeah.
I think. And
Yeah.
the only reason...
Trump's polling
the
really well
only-
among the pre-adolescent population.
Yeah, he's doing really well. The only reason that I think my nephew really likes him is because my sister really does not.
Well, he
So
literally...
it's kind of the
he
polar
literally
opposite.
has a liberal Russian-speaking uncle. So he's probably like, I like Trump.
As far as life goes, he's kind of screwed.
That's interesting. But no,
yeah.
it's an interesting fact. So this research is telling us that you can probably predict how somebody will vote based on their personality. And this, I think, is very prescient, Nick. It's not just this, oh, that's interesting and put it away. Just recently, Facebook got called in front of the Senate to give an explanation for how a company called Cambridge Analytica was mining its data to make predictions about how people would vote. And they called it micro-targeting.
Right.
And they were making those predictions based on music that people listen to, what they were clicking like on, and what they were commenting on Facebook. And if you could, kind of aggregate a person's personality from their Facebook profile, the company was expecting that they could therefore make a prediction about how somebody will vote. And so this research really plays out in the real world.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing, that one day we might live in a future where through all of our social media stuff, a company might be able to predict based on that how you will vote, even before maybe you know how you will vote. That's amazing.
That is amazing. I don't think we're far off from that.
Yeah. No, that feels like 1984-ish, but no, that feels like we're almost there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so that's the challenge I put to the listeners. As you meet people, try to guess what their politics are based on their personality, and then maybe ask them.
Well, and then I guess the other thing too, I mean, depending on how far down this rabbit hole you want to go,
Sure.
How does your personality develop? How much of your personality is not from genetics or anything biological,
Right.
but based off of your environment and how you grew up? Because we know that how you grew up in your environment has a big influence on your political leanings.
Yes. And what's so interesting about what you're saying is, I think, again, we want to believe that our politics come from this very logical, deductive reasoning place. But what the implications of this research might tell us is that you have a predetermined politics. Your politics are not even a choice. You have the illusion of choice. You believe that your politics is something you chose. But really, your personality predisposed you toward those politics. And your point to add to that implication is, Jim, your personality isn't something written in your genetic code. That might be a factor. But where you grow up and who you grow up with impacts your personality. Therefore, that's why we see trends where a state might be a red state. And those people might have similar personalities, therefore similar values, and therefore they vote as a herd.
Yeah.
Wow, that is fascinating. But I think it also speaks to the difference that we see. People talk all the time about the political divide in America and, how we feel more divided now than we've ever been in the past. Part of this, if this research bears out, is because these are literally two different sets of people. It's not just they've come to different conclusions about how taxes should work. They're coming to different conclusions